Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart. A couple of weeks ago, Warlord Games sent me one of the new Italian plastic frames for Bolt Action, and I've been so busy I haven't got round to painting anything until now.
Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems and offer custom items to suit your club, your event or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Check out the link in the video description.
With the Italian release for Bolt Action with us, Warlord Games very kindly sent me a frame of the new Paracadutisti, and that's the only time I'm going to try and pronounce it in this video, and I've probably got it wrong already. As seems to be the current trend as much as possible, the frames are absolutely packed with lots of different options so you can build them for different theatres. I won't go into loads of detail about the frame. There's frame pictures up on the Warlord Games website, but I thought I'd give you a really quick look here. I'm just building the one guy today and I'm going to paint them in a North African style theme. I have a small North African British force which is much unfinished, but I will get around to it at some point in the future. And I like the idea that these might be dusted off at some point as well and painted to use as opponents for them for games with that theme. Miniature was primed black, and then as a zenithal with my airbrush, a very light dusting around the sides and slightly underneath, but leaving most of the black in the recesses. And then I do a second pass, mostly from the top down, really building in where the light would hit at the top. And I also do a little bit of a dry brush afterwards, catching the edges of the detail in white. That's not shown on the video. I'm going to start with Agarash Dunes. It's a Citadel contrast paint and a little bit of medium as well, just to thin it slightly and increase its flow. And I want to build up nice smooth layers all over the miniature, adding extra shadow into those recesses, but using the zenithal that I've built in with the airbrush to provide quite a lot of highlighting on the miniature already, which I can follow on later on if I choose to for future highlights. All of the paints that I use in this video will be available soon after the video goes up on a post on my Patreon. It is a free post, so you only have to be a free member to view it. Don't have to pay. If you don't want to even head over to the Patreon at all, you can just pause the video as I hold up the paint and you'll be able to get the full paint list that way. Didn't take too long at all to put this base layer down with the Agarash Dunes. It covers most of the miniature. It's nearly all one colour, which is always nice when you've got large units to paint. I'm going to use a more basic skin recipe than I do in some of my videos. I usually like to start from dark and build up, usually 4, even 5 different layers of highlights, even on some of my more rank and file troops. However, here I'm going to speed it up a little bit and just use a couple of flesh colours and a flesh wash, which will hopefully make it a little bit easier to make this a quick video, and this is a very fast painting tutorial. Now it's time for some black. I'm using Grim Black from Army Speed Painter. In this case, you could use any speed blacks you want, or even just a regular, but I like to use the speed blacks over the zenithal because you get a nice little extra highlight built in there already, just because of the way they're designed to work. And when it's something like boots that are going to be covered in dust and dirt anyway, that might be all you paint on the miniature. I'm also blacking in all the metal areas of the gun. I don't want any bright shiny silver. I will highlight them slightly later on as well. There's also some magazine cartridges as well. I'm going to be painting them black at the same time as the leather straps on his helmet. For the webbing, I'm using Skeleton Horde. It's not an exact match for the colour, but I'm trying to do this as a speed painting kind of method, at least for the base coats, and this is close enough that I'm happy with it. I think the colours on the studio paint job have a little bit of a green tinge to them as well, and if you're painting in the style I am here, there's not always an exact match for this. I didn't want to mix any colours in, and that gets a little bit too faffy, again, for a basic rank and file troop like this. Again, I'm using the studio paint job as a reference point for all of the colours on this miniature. I've not gone away and done any separate research on that, so I'm sure a few of you in the comments will tell me about things that are wrong colours, and that's why I've come up with this blue to match that of the studio paint scheme, and I think it does quite a good job. There's not a lot of brown on the miniature. I'm using the same one here for the strap on the gun and also the stock as well. Back to that simple skin recipe, and I'm using a flesh wash. This is a wash rather than a contrast paint, so it doesn't always run into the recesses as much as you might like. So I am being careful not to stain the flat areas too much by moving it around with the end of my brush. However, this wash is very, very good at doing that. It's quite subtle and gives you a nice brown recess shade. While that is drying, I turn my attention to highlighting the main fatigues. Now, if you want to get your army on the table super quickly, you don't have to do any highlighting at all, and you can get a pretty cool looking army very, very quickly. But however, I want to make it stand out a little bit, tidy it up a little bit, so I'm using this ambush yellow from Two Thin Coats, quite thin on my wet palette, and just really working on the detail of the miniature. So where there are raises or rises in the folds of the fabric, I'm just focusing my highlight lines there and slowly feathering them out and blending them out, leaving all of that Agarash dunes in all of the recesses, and I carry this over the whole of the miniature apart from the webbing. For the helmet, I didn't want any brush marks. I'm actually using a little sponge here. They're very similar to the makeup sponges that you get, and you can get hold of really, really easily at the moment. I really like these small ones with this little handle as well, that I get from Knott's Hobbies. There's a link in the video description. I don't get any kickback from that at all. It's just there to support a small company in the UK. While this is a quick paint job, I really want the main area to stand out, because the uniform's pretty much all one colour. That's where your eye is going to be drawn. So I've decided to add a few extra highlights to really make it pop to the areas where the sun would hit the most on this bright uniform, and hence this lighter colour. Now focusing on the knees, on the shoulders and the top of the helmet, that kind of area. And after that it's dry, I'm returning with my Agarash tunes again with medium, but mixing a little bit more in and turning it into a glaze. And then I work from the shadowed areas upwards towards the highlighted areas and blending and feathering it out. And it just ties it all together a little bit, adds a glaze to take away some of the harshness of the highlights, tidies it all up, adds a little bit more warmth back into it, and just rebalances it. But as I've already said earlier on, if you're looking to get your miniatures on the table really quickly, you can just stick with the contrast base layers and it will still look great. To keep the webbing and packs a slightly different colour from the rest of the uniform, I'm using a slightly colder, different tone to the highlight colour there, and that's where this ancient stone comes in. They're close enough that they blend in at points, but there is a subtle difference, and I think this achieves it just about right. To add a little highlight to that water canteen, I'm actually using that ancient stone with that Nighthawk gloom, which I've got on my wet palette there, mixing a little bit together, adding a little bit more of the creamy colour each time to play with the highlight. For the black leather areas, I'm using a little bit of medium grey just to add some very, very basic highlights, mostly on the straps of the helmet there, so they don't look like just a plain black. It's less important on the boots. And while I started with one brown as a base coat for the strap on the gun and the stock, I've got two different browns that give them slightly different highlights. After all, one is going to be a strap and one is going to be the wooden stock. So I want to give them a subtle difference. But there's really not an awful lot going on here. Very subtle, small line layering highlights just to make it pop and stand out a little bit more. For the blued weapon, I'm simply running a soft artist pencil over the detail, which just catches a little bit of the edges, give it that metallic look without making it look like it's shiny silver. Getting close to the end now when we're back to the skin, so I'm returning with the same base coat of the flesh. After the wash, I'm just reinforcing those and highlighting them back, making sure I'm leaving the wash in all of the recesses. And then after that, using slightly brighter tones, focusing on the top of the nose and the cheekbones, and then across the knuckles of the hands. Very much an optional extra here, but I do like to add a little bit of extra depth to the skin tones. It's so easy and really makes them pop. So a little bit of purple into the shadows around the cuffs, sometimes around the helmets, and a little bit of a warmer colour, sort of a purpley red colour to the bottom of the faces, around the cheeks and around the nose, and sometimes the tops of the hands as well. Thinned and glazed very much, but it just adds a little bit of extra warmth and realism to the skin, and it's super simple. And there he is, all finished and done. And I didn't time it, but I think it took me around an hour to paint this miniature, which is pretty good, all said and done. When you've got whole armies to paint, it is a very simple paint scheme, almost all one colour and very little webbing on there, which always helps. And the webbing's a similar colour as well. Super, super simple. And a couple of things like making sure that you highlight the main fatigues a little bit more and focusing on a simple skin recipe, but the one that stands out and pops, I think gives them a little extra special look while being really, really simple. There's not many really difficult techniques here. And like I've said throughout the video, if you just want to work with the basic washes and using the contrast and speed paint as your main colour, you don't need to add those highlights if you don't want to. I'm sure there are plenty of things wrong with this, and you will point it out to me in the comments where the colours are wrong, etc, etc. But again, I'm pretty happy with this for a casual World War II game that I love to play once in a while. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much to Warlord Games for sending another one of your Bolt Action frames over for me to have a look at. I'm a big fan of the stylings of Warlord Games World War II miniatures, that slightly old-fashioned Boy's Own comic book style posing and caricatures. I just like that. It's something I can engage with. I know some people prefer other miniatures ranges, so do let me know in the comments below if you like these, if you don't like these, and what your favourite Italian ranges are. If you don't, I always find it really interesting to hear people's thoughts. And if you have enjoyed the video, please do give it a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. It really helps the channel be seen by other people. I do enjoy making a wide range of videos for different game systems, and things like Bolt Action may not get as much love as some of the other game systems on the channel, but I will continue to make content for them, so it's well worth being subscribed so you don't miss out. And if you'd like to support me and help me to make more videos for more different game systems and put more time into things like Bolt Action, then the very best way of doing that is to support me via Patreon, because that money really helps pay for the time it takes me to make the content, for painting, for filming, and all of those other things. And I really do appreciate all my existing patrons for all the support they give me. Don't forget to check out the channel sponsor as well, Counter Attack Bases. But thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.